90.3 WHPC now presents Law You Should Know. The law affects every aspect of our lives, our home, our jobs, and our recreational activities. Now, learn about the law and how to protect yourself against the loss of your liberty or property, and learn how to stand up for your rights and seek compensation when you have been wronged. Your host for Law You Should Know is attorney Kenneth J. Landau, a past dean of the Nassau Academy of Law, and frequently lectures to lawyers on ethics and avoiding problems with clients, and to the public on how to choose and use lawyers. This is Law You Should Know on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hi, this is Ken Landau, and welcome to Law You Should Know. Our special guest today is Trish Ahjel Roberts. She has an MBA, and she is an author, coach, and speaker, and she's going to tell us how lawyers and others can replace self-doubt with happiness. And I know there's a problem, especially emerging from COVID, that many lawyers and others are not so happy. And she's also the author of 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness, and she'll give us ideas today on how we can take those steps to mind-blowing happiness. Trish, welcome to Law You Should Know.
Thanks, Ken. It's my pleasure to be here.
Just tell us about your book and your work and how you're going to help our listeners today and introduce them to the steps to mind-blowing happiness.
Yeah, so my recent book that's out is 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness. I got some really great endorsements from Jack Canfield, Marcy Scheimoff, and Ian Van Zandt. And it teaches people the steps to the path to what I call mind-blowing happiness, which is really self-actualization. So it's a way to get to your most deeply joyful and fulfilling life. And I know that that's really hard for lawyers because they're usually so stressed out and burned out and busy between, court and stress in the office and managing people. So it definitely applies to your audience.
And lawyers have to keep a lot of people happy. Judges, clients, their bosses, clients. There's so many people, and maybe their families and friends as well. So sometimes it's very tough to keep everyone in that flowchart happy. So what are some of the things that lawyers and others, especially as we emerge from COVID, can do to experience mind-blowing happiness? Yeah,
the first thing really, and it sounds kind of small or trite, but it's acknowledging your feelings. So many times we're going from moment to moment throughout the day, putting out fires, going through stress, taking phone calls and all these demands on us. It really takes time for us to acknowledge how we're feeling, So that first acknowledgement is where we begin to address our issues. So that's really the first step. And from there, then we have a lot of techniques we can use. One of my favorites is journaling, which, sounds a little corny, but I know if you're like me, if I don't write it down, things just kind of swirl around in my head. So when you write down what you're working through or how you're feeling is very helpful. There's a quote that I love from Tony Robbins where he says, "The quality of your life is a direct reflection of the quality of the questions that you ask yourself." So one thing I like to do when I'm working through something is I'll ask myself a question, maybe before I go to bed at night, and then in the morning, work through the answer. Or you could do it the other way around. It's just that many times we have the answer ourselves, but we never really ask ourselves the question.
So should you ask yourself at the end of the day, how you felt about different events, how you felt about a project or an interaction, whether these things are good or bad, and just put down your feelings?
It's a great way to do it. And, if you listen to kind of what our parents used to say, they would always say, sleep on it. So if you ask the question and then you sleep on it, when you wake up 9 times out of 10, you'll have a really good answer.
And you can fine tune your list of how you felt about something or how you interpreted something. You can add to it or take some of the words out, or now you've had some reflection, maybe your impression will change or the impression it left on you.
And even if you don't get, the answer right away, it may take 2 nights instead of 1, but it's definitely, it's surprising how many times we have the answers to our own questions. And if you're a coach like myself, a lot of what we do with clients is helping them find the wisdom inside of themselves.
And are everything that we think about and that we write down, are they all of equal importance, or should we focus on certain aspects that are more important to us going forward or in our daily lives and try to work on those things, the big picture?
Yeah, the big picture is important and prioritizing your goals are important. It's also really important to stay positive. Journaling can get a little tricky if you just use it as an opportunity to complain, like a long-handed complaint. You want to make sure that you're staying positive, not just in what you're journaling. Another important step is to stay positive in the way that you speak to yourself. So, we all have this little voice inside our heads, and you want to make sure that that voice is both kind and empowering. So if you're sometimes hearing yourself, maybe you're stressed out, you're an attorney, you're really busy, and you keep hearing this voice saying, I can't do this, or I don't have enough time. You want to turn it around. So you're saying, I will do this, or I won't do this. So at least you're taking the power. And then when you comment on your own behaviors, you want those comments to be positive so that you're, saying kind things to yourself as if you were talking to a loved one.
So it's very important to be kind and gentle to yourself and probably in most cases to others around you in the hope they'll reciprocate.
Well, I would definitely say yes, you want to be kind to others around you. I know that attorneys, many times when they're litigating cases, they can't always be quite that kind. They have to be quite direct and make their case, make their points. So, yeah.
But you don't want to insult other people. You might disagree with their argument or their conclusions or their reasoning, but you don't have to insult them personally, just like you would not want to be insulted personally if you're involved in some kind of litigation. If you're dealing with colleagues or a boss or a subordinate, you want to be constructive and balanced in your criticism or suggestions, just as you want someone to be with you. Yes. So it's sort of the golden rule. Does that apply to this?
Isn't the golden rule just the best thing ever? Absolutely. You want to treat others the way that you would like to be treated. And
you should treat yourself the way you'd want to be treated by others.
It's funny, Ken, because so many times that gets lost. We forget about ourselves. Many people, like I was saying before, speak to themselves poorly. They may call yourself stupid or, forget.
And are hard on yourself that you didn't do as well as you could. And look, tomorrow's a new day. If you got some project in, you did the best you could, you have to close the door on that. You had a bad week with a client or billing. You have to try to do better or make it easier on yourself for the next project.
Absolutely. Encourage yourself. And another great way to do that is to create a community of encouraging people. So you don't want to, spend a lot of your time with people who don't treat you kindly or who are crabs in a barrel. So yes, encourage yourself and get in community with other people.
So you can have a little networking group so you can get support and just as you may have had a study group in school, you can have a little working group. It could be people from other firms, maybe with other perspectives. Maybe it's also a networking group, some type of support group.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my mind-blowing happiness circle is an option. So that's a support.
And for lawyers, this may come through a bar association, through a professional committee, through colleagues, through counseling they provide or groups they provide for people in a particular field. So you can exchange ideas with those people and get ideas from them on how to deal with certain legal or firm-related problems.
Yeah, they can be professional groups and they can, also be groups that are separate from the professional community as well.
And you started to talk about self-talk. Is that so important?
It is incredibly important. And if you've ever been in contact with somebody who makes a lot of self-deprecating comments, it actually gets uncomfortable for other people, and that's when you're saying it out loud. But when you're just saying it to yourself, it really hinders you.
Is it also difficult to be with people who criticize everyone and criticize everything about that environment? Very negative people, let's say.
Isn't that the worst? Yeah. So I definitely recommend practicing gratitude as a real practice, not just something that you think about. And there's a lot of ways to do that. It will shift your energy for sure and make people want to be around you. So one way that you can do that is to, at the end of the day, write down 3 things that you're thankful for. I like to do what I call a gratitude shower. I don't have time to do it every morning, but at least one morning a week when I get in the shower, I pay attention to what I'm doing instead of thinking about my next meeting. So I might just wash my face and think about how grateful I am that I can breathe and I can smile, or wash my arms and my shoulders and think about, how grateful I am that I can hug people and haul my groceries. So really just going through your body parts, especially your feet, because they carry everything, and shifting your focus away from always thinking about the next appointment, the next court case, the next meeting, and taking some time to be grateful for the life and the physical body that you have.
And is it also good to take yourself out of that intense work environment, have lunch or a telephone call or a video chat with a friend, or go to nature or do some community work, or, pet an animal?
Absolutely. You went through a fantastic list, Ken. We all need breaks, and there's so many different ways that we can take breaks and so many different ways to care for ourselves. Getting exercise, of course, is important. But if you can get out in nature, and take a walk in the sun, look at a tree, look at a flower, that has a different effect on your body than just, taking a walk on the treadmill at the gym. So things like that, getting in nature, making time to take a break, a few deep breaths. There's a whole branch of yoga called pranayama, which is breath work. But even just taking 3 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, makes a big difference in your body chemistry. And you will immediately feel the effects of it when you're stressed.
And maybe even take some short breaks during the day. And it's not that you're giving up valuable time. You're going to be able to work better in your time later in the day if you do that.
It's true, because if I find with myself, if I'm sitting all day, that I start to lose focus. So getting up, getting some oxygen, getting your body circulating. It's not healthy to sit in front of the computer all day. Absolutely makes a difference. And taking breaks, taking mental breaks is important as well.
What's the importance of team building or having other outlets for yourself, such as a charity or some kind of a social group?
Yeah, team building at the office is really critical. You get so much more done when people are willing to work together. So when people show up to the office feeling disconnected, they really don't want to be there, they're not that friendly with their coworkers, you just don't get as much done as when people are excited to be at work and be with their coworkers. So team building exercises are really helpful with that, whether it's a group lunch or a charity project that the team can do together, or, just some kind of activity. Even setting up like a lunchtime walking for 15 minutes, those all make a difference.
And again, if you're not really part of a team, you're working at home because of COVID, you can just, take the walk yourself, or maybe find a neighbor or friend to take that little walk with, just to get away from work and get some air and some exercise, or just join a group, maybe doing some work for a charity or helping someone else to put a little break in your week or your day.
Absolutely. Yes. And, you can, if you're in a place that's COVID friendly, if you're able to, you could go into a place with other people. I know now different cities are different. So, but even if it's an online group.
Well, even if it's outdoors, you can walk. Outdoors is still relatively safe. You can wear a mask. The important thing is you're doing something. You're getting some fresh air. You're changing the volume. You're taking a physical and mental break from work or your ordinary routine.
Absolutely.
Tell us some of the other things that you cover in your book, The 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness.
Yeah. So the 12 steps, it really starts off with foundational steps. So the first one is healing. Many people have unhealed trauma that they haven't thought about. They just kind of push through. So just pausing to make sure that you focus on healing in your life, even if it's small things. Like for some people, it could be, their teacher told them that they couldn't sing or somebody stole their peanut butter sandwich. But we end up having small things happen, and it changes the way that we interact with other people throughout life. So the first step is healing. The second step is tapping into your spirituality, which is separate from religion. It's really nurturing that sense of your spiritual self. And that's part of what you connect with when you do things like take a walk in nature or, meditate for a few minutes. The third step gets into authenticity and self-awareness. And then from there, it goes into things like connection and learning to extinguish anger so you can have a more peaceful life. We were talking about anger earlier. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's angry or complaining all the time.
And so it's never productive to be angry at yourself or others.
It's really not. I mean, sometimes it's difficult to avoid that feeling of anger, but the reality is anger is always self-directed. If I'm angry at you, it doesn't harm you at all. It only harms me.
And is it good, rather than telling me about it, depending on the context and relationship, maybe just to tell a friend about it, so you're venting it and hopefully releasing it?
Venting is fine, but the way that I teach you how to extinguish it, and anger has a lot of cranky cousins. So you have things like disappointment, frustration, impatience, all of these things that if you leave them unchecked, they'll make you miserable,
And is this going to be subjective? You're upset about it, even if you don't really know if the other person is or interpreted the event the same way? It's more how you feel about it. You're holding it in.
I think it's always subjective,
okay.
Because you may say something to me and it doesn't bother me at all. And you may say the same thing to somebody else and they're really angry about it or offended. So I think it's always subjective.
And what are some ways of releasing that or letting go of that?
I teach a 5-step process. And really the first one, again, is acknowledging your anger. So noticing that feeling when it arises. The second step is taking a few deep breaths, which we talked about too, because it allows oxygen to go to your brain so you can start making better choices. And then the third step is to ignite your empathy. So to try to put yourself in a different viewpoint so you can see the other side of the anger, because usually it's a person or a situation that makes you angry. And the final piece of that is to come to some sort of constructive action to use your energy towards.
And can that also be letting go, of that feeling or that belief?
It could be.
Okay.
Like if you're in traffic and someone cuts in front of you, your constructive action could be listening to a podcast. It doesn't have to be a reaction to that particular person. And the final step is just kind of affirming yourself. We talked about that before as well. So when you're finished, you're just kind of like, you know what, I did a good thing. Look at that. I didn't honk and try to run someone over with my car or, whatever your normal response might be.
And in a moment, I'd like to have you talk about adding new skills and maybe experiences into the mix, along with what the advice you've given. I just want to remind the listeners, we're talking with Trish Ahjel Roberts, and she's an author, coach, and speaker, and she's also the author of 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness. And she's telling us how lawyers and others can replace self-doubt with happiness. And we know attorneys have a lot of challenges out there, and others as well as we emerge from COVID. And you're listening to Law You Should Know on 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College in Garden City, Long Island, New York. And if you missed any part of this program, you can hear it as a podcast at nccradio.org. What are some other things that lawyers and others can add to the mix, maybe in terms of new skills, to have something new and fresh and maybe aspirational in their mix of activities?
So if you are looking, first let me say, if you're battling with self-doubt, new skills are always going to be a great way to battle that and increase your sense of happiness. So whether it's improving professional skills, doing more continuing education work, or maybe volunteer teaching law topics, maybe taking a new assignment in the office, those kind of things, reading trade journals, all of those things are going to make you feel more confident. But also personal development work is going to make you feel more confident too. So you might want to learn how to do some yoga poses or learn how to do a 5-minute meditation, maybe take a hike with a hiking group or something like that. Nowadays, I see a lot of people learning how to roller skate, but whatever it is that kind of sets your soul on fire, having some of that fun personal development work will help your confidence as well as doing the professional work that you would normally think of.
And will certainly put you in a different environment where you can have fun and, perhaps gain a new skill.
And get those endorphins going. There's we all know exercise creates endorphins and serotonin, but when you do it outside, there's also other benefits as well. So
let's understand the dynamics of a situation. I think you've suggested that your situation is only responsible for 20% of your happiness or unhappiness. 40% you were born with, and 40% you can change with your behavior. So can you explain that dynamic and how we can put the best spin on things?
Yeah, isn't that so interesting? So that's data that comes from a Princeton study. And so we're all born with a happiness set point. And the data shows that that's about 40% of our happiness.
That's part of our DNA, so to speak.
Part of our DNA.
Okay.
The other 20% might be how you were raised, what your family was like, what kind of car you drive, how big your house is, those kind of things. But the good news is the other 40% we can really control. So you can control it with the kind of things that we spoke about. Are you getting fresh air? Are you going outside? Are you exercising? Are you getting enough sleep? Are you having a gratitude practice? Have you learned to control your temper, and convert that into something positive? So that's the good news, that 40% is a lot.
Well, if we feel the 60% is against us, can we get supercharged in that 40% to overwhelm the other 60% if that's all negative?
Well, I don't think that your lawyers are going to be all negative with the 20%, because I don't think anybody's like living under a bridge or anything like
or maybe
that.
It's 50-50, but you can do things. Everyone can do something to increase the amount of happiness. Some of the things you've mentioned, if we do enough, it will help overwhelm whatever bad vibes we have.
Yeah, you can really change the trajectory of your life. You can get better sleep. You can wake up every morning with joy. These are the things that I teach. So we get into these mental habits where we kind of think the same way or do the same things over and over again. I talk about limiting beliefs because we get these ideas that certain things are true and we accept them as true, negative things, when if we examine them, many times they are not true. So yes, you have a lot of control with your ability to have joy in your life, no matter how busy or stressed you might be as a lawyer.
And even if those negative beliefs, maybe they're a little bit true, is there a way to kind of ignore them and look at the big picture or try to move on?
Well, yes, I will say yes. So I know, I'll give you an example. You might feel like you don't make enough money. You need the next promotion. You're not making the money that you want to make. But if you were to really kind of look at that and say, okay, I make this number. I don't make a lot of money. All my other friends make more money. If you really were to sit down and examine that, you'd say, well, you know what? I'm still probably making top 20% income in the U.S. I'm still living in the richest country, one of the richest countries in the world.
Or I'm meeting my needs. I can pay my rent. So what I take in works for me, and maybe I don't have to work as hard as those other people. Maybe I'm not as stressed as those other people.
Yeah.
And if I need to earn a little more, these are a few other things I can do to earn more money if that's what I need and what's important to me.
There's so much that you will find when you examine something that you assume to be the truth.
Trish, just mention to us your book again, where it's available, and your website.
Yes. So the book is 12 Steps to Mind-Blowing Happiness. You can find it on Amazon or on my website. The website is my name. It's Trish Ahjel Roberts. So that's Trish, AHJEL Roberts.com. And when you go on there, you can download a free excerpt of the book. You can also take the pledge for a juicier life's journey and get lots of content from me. I have lots of great content for you. Okay.
I would like to thank you for offering to lawyers and others your ideas on mind-blowing happiness. And you've talked about some of the negative things and how we can replace them with some positive ideas and change our mix. Even if we're working from home or we're working through Zoom, there are little things we can do throughout our day to take a break for happiness. And it doesn't take that much. It just takes a little bit here and there. And I hope that our listeners will go to your website for other ideas. And if you've missed any portion of today's show, it's available as a free podcast at nccradio.org. And please join us at this same time next week on 90.3 WHPC for another program on Law You Should Know, and many other podcasts are available at nccradio.org.